Why are companies only recruiting from top tier schools again? People are pointing to DEI policy changes or merit or because AI broke the system. It's not. It's all about risk and how to avoid it. If you're a hiring manager or you're trying to get hired, understanding that explains almost everything that feels broken about this job market. Because right now, candidates are thinking, are we screwed if we didn't go to the right school? And hiring managers are thinking, I don't have time for this. I just need to not mess up. Both are reacting rationally to a system that punishes mistakes more than it rewards success. So the real question isn't, why are companies only recruiting from top schools? Instead, it's why didn't we see this coming? And why did AI have to break everything before we noticed? In this video, I want to walk through what's actually happening, why this shift to elite schools makes sense on paper, what it confirms about a broken hiring system, and what both sides can do about it without hoping for some magic fix that isn't coming. If you're a job seeker, I'll shed light on why this process sucks and give you 3 things that you can do to regain control of your fate. And if you're a hiring manager, I'll share what you can do differently to reduce your risk and get the best candidate. Let me make this real and share when I started looking at hiring differently. Years ago, when I was managing teams inside a big company, I asked one of my bosses a question that at the time felt kind of naive. I asked, why do we recruit from the same specific schools and basically ignore all the others? I was expecting some deep, insightful answer about academic rigor, culture, or finding the best and the brightest. Instead, he said simply, it's all about risk. More specifically, avoiding risk. We know these schools. We've hired from them for years. The outcomes are usually fine. That was it. Hiring is risky. Hiring is expensive. And here's the part that's rarely said out loud and what scares the crap out of hiring managers. If you make a good hire, cool. That's what you're supposed to do. If you make a bad hire, that's a failure to do your job well. So what do managers do? They try not to look stupid. They find ways to reduce risk with the least effort. And one of the easiest ways to do that is to delegate evaluation onto someone else, especially someone credible. More importantly, someone who provides an excuse if things go wrong. Instead of saying, I personally evaluated this person from scratch and I assume full accountability for their success, you say, hey, this college already filtered them. Admissions vetted them, professors graded them, and they made it through a program that we've hired from before. They should work out just fine, right? Is that perfect? Obviously not, but it's defensible. And defensibility is highly valuable. Now, fast forward to this week. The Wall Street Journal runs an article saying companies are shifting recruiting back towards a small set of elite colleges. Most top companies are back to only hiring from the top 30 universities out of over 4,000 colleges in the US. Forget the top 1%, that's the top 0.75%, with 26% of companies now exclusively focused on a short list of schools. And they give the usual explanations. We want higher quality candidates. We want to be more efficient. We're focusing our resources. All very reasonable, very professional. Also, kind of dodging the point. There wasn't some sudden rediscovery of academic excellence. It's that the hiring environment has turned into absolute chaos. You're not looking at 30 resumes anymore. You're looking at hundreds, sometimes dealing with thousands in just a matter of hours. And thanks to LinkedIn Easy Apply and AI tools, a shocking number of these resumes are virtually identical. Same keywords, same bullet structure, same quantified, delivered impact at scale nonsense. So when everything looks identical, what happens? You stop pretending the resume tells you anything meaningful. At that point, hiring managers aren't saying, wow, what an amazing list of candidates. Who's the most capable person here? They're panicked asking, what's the fastest way to reduce this pile? And that's where school name jumps back into the picture. Not because it's the best signal for future success, but because it's sortable and defensible. While the Wall Street Journal article gave reasons like DEI policy changes and the AI resume boom, when the overall white-collar job market is under tension, which it is right now, from the hiring manager to the boardroom, risk aversion makes a lot more sense. To illustrate this, here's a metaphor courtesy of Rory Sutherland. He asks the question, if you had one food to eat for the rest of your life, what would you pick? Not your favorite food, You only get one thing to eat
forever.
And his answer is the potato. It's not impressive, but it works. And as Matt Damon taught us in the movie The Martian, you can survive on them for a really long time. But if things go badly, no one says, why on earth did you choose a potato? They say, yeah, that made sense. That's elite school hiring. Just like an attempt to live on Mars, when trying to survive as a manager, you can see why hiring potatoes starts looking pretty appealing. As Sutherland puts it, what often matters isn't success. It's whether you can defend any outcome. Because as a manager, it's much easier to be fired for being illogical than being unimaginative. And logic always takes everyone to the same place. That's why you're hiring potatoes. But you're still staring at a mountain of identical resumes. Forget Skynet. This marks the rise of AI's greatest impact so far. Before we blame all of this on AI, I'll say the part that few are talking about. Resumes didn't suddenly break. They were always broken. The real issue is that resumes have always had a correct answer. And anytime a system has a solution, people will learn how to game it. Let's look at how hiring typically works. A hiring manager opens a role. They sit down with a recruiter, and then the two of them together build out a job description. What are we really doing in that moment? We're imagining our perfect potato. We draw a picture of our dream candidate, and then we hold up each resume looking for overlap. We're trying to find this ideal candidate who somehow has the exact right experience, skills, tools, and miraculously no weaknesses. That's how it's been for years. But now the internet exists, YouTube exists, and AI exists. So of course people figured out how to reverse engineer your ideal hypothetical candidate. Technology just made it effortless. Feed it your resume, feed it the job description, solve for potato. And suddenly, hiring managers look at this stack of resume and say, this is useless, everyone looks the same. Yeah, exactly. That's not an AI problem. That's the system highlighting a problem that's existed forever. When we design a system with the correct answer, don't be upset when everyone figures out how to give you exactly what you asked for. The resume job description game was always designed to be solvable, showing how little value resumes really provide in searching for high-quality employees. And it's not just resumes. Interviews, especially traditional ones, don't find the best candidate. Mostly, they're a solvable business performance art. Even behavioral interviewing has known questions and answers. The system can be gamed. Rehearse about 5 different stories and in the moment decide which one most closely fits the question that was asked. Recite the answer, pretending you came up with a perfect 60-second vignette on the spot. Hiring committees are left judging acting believability over genuine skills that matter for professional success. How someone thinks, how quickly they learn, how they handle ambiguity, and how they reason through unfamiliar problems. Those get skipped because they're harder. They take more time. They require better questions. And they force you to exercise judgment as the hiring manager. And they don't exist in a spreadsheet that you're desperately trying to filter. And here's what annoys me most about this. We know what good hiring looks like. Consulting firms figured this out decades ago. They don't ask, tell me about a time when you showed leadership. They put you in a case study and watch you work. It's not share a story about when you overcame adversity. It's staring at the interviewer after you just spent 30 minutes working through a problem to be asked, what if I told you you were wrong? Now how do you react? The interviewer isn't sitting there seeing if you rehearse the right answer and can deliver your lines. You're being tested in a more realistic, high-pressure situation. It shifts the interview from, can you pretend to be our ideal potato, to show me how you think and work. Instead, managers are stuck with a dated, solvable system, and now everyone has the technology to generate the correct answers. In a world of loss aversion, trying not to get fired, they're desperately seeking defensible cover for their hiring decisions. And elite schools offer exactly that. But what if you're on the other side of the table, which is who I guess most of you watching are? How the hell do you deal with a broken system as a candidate? Job searching today sucks. It's easier than ever to apply. The problem's been solved, and there's clear AI prompts that make you look like what they want. The question is, what can you do to overcome the mountain of identical potatoes dilemma? You're not going to fix hiring from the outside. Complaining is useless. You're not going to talk a recruiter out of their system, and you're definitely not going to change your academic pedigree retroactively. So the only rational move is to control what you can control. Here's the 3 things that I do. Number 1, fewer applications, more depth. If you're applying to everything, you're not really applying to anything. The spray and pray approach feels productive because it keeps you busy, but it adds you into the noisiest part of the system, and the only thing that it's really efficient at is destroying your mental health and self-worth. Every additional application you submit at low effort reduces the time you have to stand out anywhere. So instead, pick fewer roles, ones that you actually want, ones that you'd be excited and credible doing. Then go deeper. Tailor the resume, really, together with AI, not just letting ChatGPT do its thing. Write the cover letter even when it's optional. Reference the actual job, company, and team if you can, not just a generic version of it. Optional application fields are where differentiation lives. Number 2, network like an adult, not a bot. Cold messaging 50 people in LinkedIn with "Help me Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope" energy isn't networking. It's spam and it's just as easily ignored. Real networking is slower. It looks like asking thoughtful questions, finding some shared connection, and being specific of why you're reaching out in the first place. Alumni networks, second-degree relationships, people doing the job you actually want. Don't ask for a referral on message 1. Ask for insight. Give a little strategic flattery that you want to learn something small yet actionable that they can help you with. Make it easy for them to respond and see where it goes. And if someone inside the company becomes an advocate for you, even informally, great. You've just dramatically improved your odds. As Scott Galloway recently shared,
Google puts out a job opening. They get 200 CVs within like 8 minutes. They limit it down to the 20 most qualified. 70% of the time, the person they pick is someone who has an internal advocate.
Other research backs this up, that employee referrals are only 6 or 7% of applications, but they lead to almost half of successful hires. Make that your mission. Be real about it, just like your applications, not trying to play the numbers game. That's your lever to improve success. Number 3, show how you think, not just what you did. This is probably the most underused lever. Resumes tell people what you've done. They're terrible at showing how you think. So find ways to fix that. Become known before your resume hits the stack, or if you do get noticed, make who you are and the value you bring easier to discover. Write a short memo. Share something insightful on LinkedIn. Build a small portfolio of your work. If you're early in your career, show how you reason, not just what you shipped or what project you got lucky enough to stand next to. Anything that helps someone imagine working with you is more powerful than another generic bullet point, because the best hiring managers aren't just hiring credentials. They're looking for individuals to make their team better by thinking, and you never know where your next opportunity will come from. None of this guarantees success, and anyone who tells you otherwise is full of crap and probably trying to take your money. But this approach does one important thing. It takes real steps you can control to escape the pile of potatoes and move into the category of worth thinking about. In this market, that's real progress. And if it doesn't work, at least you tried something different instead of submitting application 427 into the void. So where does that leave us? Companies narrowing their recruiting, leaning on elite schools, isn't some grand moral failure or regression. It's rational behavior. It's defensible risk aversion inside a broken system. Hiring managers are also victims here. They're just trying to survive a process that places a ton of risk on them hiring the right person. They're stuck relying on outdated approaches that never answered the right question. And job seekers aren't doing anything wrong either. They're responding logically, playing the game the way it's been done forever, and now suffering the consequences of a resume-focused system designed on filtering unhelpful attributes. The problem isn't that people are optimizing. The whole hiring game was always solvable. The problem is what the system rewards and the risk difference between success and failure. That's how you end up hiring potatoes. For hiring managers, that's an existential challenge. If you want better outcomes, you have to be willing to screen for things that are harder to measure, but actually matter. Critical thinking, adaptability, judgment. All of that takes effort and a lot of courage. For job seekers, the takeaway is different but just as important. You can't fix the system by throwing up your hands or yelling at it, but you can stop playing it on autopilot, control what you can control, and figure out your path to look like the correct potato and stand out. None of this is easy. So, are you screwed if you didn't go to Harvard? Only if you play the game the same way everyone else does. The system is hiring potatoes. Your job is to show them something better. If this resonated or challenged how you think about hiring, I'd love to hear about your experience in the comments. What's the most potato hiring decision that you've ever been a part of? If this was helpful, give me a like to let me know, or consider sharing this with someone else who might benefit. Thanks so much for watching, and good luck out there in a really challenging job market.